Morning. I hope you're having a lovely week so far and raring to go this morning. So we're going to be looking at ideas for what play scripts we're going to be writing today. So we're going to be looking predominantly at fairy tales for you to be able to then use as a play script. So for our spag lesson to start with today, we're going to be looking at something called a preposition. So I want you to have a go and see if you already know what a preposition is. So Melissa climbed down the rope ladder. Do you know which one is the preposition? If you do, give it a circle or give it a point at which word it is. If not, we're going to go through the answer in a minute. So if I want you to pause it now, have a think and then play it. Okay, so you should have, if you did know this, the preposition was the word down. And we're going to explain why that is. So what is a preposition? So a preposition is a word that links nouns, pronouns and phrases to other words in the sentence. And a preposition usually describes the position of something, so where something is or when something is happening. So for example, on, under, behind or after. They're just a few that you could use. So if we were to have a look now and think about how we could use these, we're going to have a look at a picture next to see how we can put prepositions into our writing. So here are some examples of how we can use prepositions. So, for example, one of them is there is a lamp above the table. What is the preposition in that sentence? The preposition is the word above because it's telling you where the lamp is. It is above the table. There are books on the shelf. What is the preposition going to be? It's going to be on. If you've got that, well done, because it's saying where the books are. They are on the shelf. There is a plant near the table. The preposition would be, what would it be? Well done if you said near, because it's telling you where it's near. Okay, it's close to something. Close to could be the preposition. So we can see that there's how we use the prepositions. So we've got above, on, near. Now I'd like you to write the word prepositions in a little bubble, and I want you to think of as many prepositions as you can. So we've talked of some. We've got on, near, above, below, behind, after. So there's 6 already for you. See if you can come up with as many as possible, and then we'll see if you've got the same ones which I've got as well. Okay, so let's see if you've got some of the same ones that I've got. So we've got across, so something could be across the room. Under, something under the table. Before, if something's happening, so it could be that somebody was standing before somebody in the line at 6 o'clock, so it's telling you the time. After, so it could be after reading the newspaper, Sam watched television. Towards, so it could be the child was moving towards his bicycle. In, you could have that there are some sweeties in a packet. Above, so you could have the light was above the table. With, you could say that Tom was standing with his dog. Off, you could have the marble fell off the table. During, you could have during the TV show, the television switched off. You could have beside, so it could be that you could say the lamp is beside the toaster. Above, you could have, obviously we've already done that one, that one's a repeat. On, if there is a book on the shelf. Through, looking through the window, you can see a tree. And below is, you could say that something was below, so it could be the printer was below the table. So if you haven't got some of these, please do go put them in and add them to your prepositions so that you've got a clear idea. So when we go to use the prepositions, you've got them there to start with. So let's have a look at how we could put them into some sentences. I've just given you a few verbally, but we can put some more. And obviously, if there's some more prepositions here, you might want to also want to put these onto your prepositions as well. So the scissors were left next to the pencil case because that's where the scissors are. Hamid and Salma wrote in their books. The lady stepped on blocks and I sheltered beneath my umbrella. So obviously that was a new one, beneath, that's saying you were underneath. So I'd like you to have a go at filling in the word with the preposition. So the girl, where she held her arms, where you can sit, where was Joe when the phone rang, and what would you do in an earthquake? So using the prepositions that you've wrote down, I'd like you to now go and have a go at doing that and writing the correct one in. Now there might be different options that you could use, but you pick the most appropriate option to you, and then we'll see if you've got the same ones which I've picked as well. These are something that you could have put. Alternatively, there might have been other answers as long as your sentence makes sense. So the girl held her arms above her head. Go and sit next to Stan, or go and sit beside Stan. Joe was in the bath when the phone rang, and they hid under the table during an earthquake. But you could have had they hid under the table in an earthquake. So obviously you could have used a different word, different preposition, but this is how we could use the preposition. These are some examples that you could use. As long as your sentence makes sense, you could have used any preposition. Okay, so now we've had a go at looking what a preposition is. It's telling you where something is or when something's happening. We know that there are lots of different examples we can use, which you've wrote lots down in your spider diagram, in your bubble. And then we've had a go at seeing how we can put them into sentences. So now you are going to have a go at doing that. So you can use this picture. Alternatively, if you are sat in your bedroom or in the lounge, or if you're at school, you could use things in the classroom that you have used, or things that you can see around you, rather than using this picture. But if you don't, you could always use this picture. So I'd like you to think of some sentences. Now, I'd like you to up-level them as well. So don't just say, the guitar is on the sofa. Think about what you could do. You could say, comfortably, the brown wooden guitar sits on the soft blue sofa. So you're going to put some adjectives in as well. You could put some adverbs in. So you could just do your simple sentence, the guitar sits on the sofa, and you could circle the preposition on. You could then up-level it underneath and make it so it's that comfortably the brown wooden guitar sits on the comfy blue sofa, or the soft blue sofa, or whatever words you want to use. So I'd have a go at doing that. I'd do about 5 sentences. You could do obviously many more. You could describe everything in the room if you really want to challenge yourself, but please do at least 5 sentences for that before moving on to what we're going to be doing today. So the first thing I'd like you to do, I'd like you to do a spider diagram for me and write fairy tales and plays, and I want you to write as many fairy tales or plays that you might have been to see in the theatre that you have heard of. So for example, it could be Cinderella, Rapunzel, Peter Pan. So any of these, I'd like you to write as many down as possible, and then once you've done that, if you come back to me. Okay, so here are some examples that you might have come up with. You've got the Snow White, the Elves and the Shoemaker, the Little Mermaid, Hansel and Gretel, Three Billy Goats Gruff, Little Red Riding Hood, Peter Pan, Beauty and the Beast, Dumbo, Goldilocks and Three Bears, Jack and the Beanstalk, Aladdin, Frozen, Sleeping Beauty. So there's lots of different ones there. If you want to add these to your spider diagram, you can, but obviously these were some which I thought of. So now I'd like you to decide which fairy tale or play you'd like to do for your play script. So which story would you like to do? So next to all the ideas that you've come up with, I'd like you to just put a little star or a little circle around it so you know which one you're going to do your story on. Now you could also make up your own story. I also don't mind that, but what I would suggest is probably using a fairy tale just because it'll make it a little bit easier. But as I say, if you would like to make your own story up, that's absolutely fine. So what I'd like you to do now, for the rest of the lesson, I want you to do some recapping of the story. So say, for example, you've chosen the story, say, Jack and the Beanstalk. I'd like you to now recap the story, what happens in the story, thinking about who the main characters are, the main events of the story, what happens, what's the outcome. So I'd like you to spend the rest of the lesson doing this. Now, there are lots of YouTube clips that you can find on the internet, or if you just type in on the internet, usually they come up. What I would suggest doing is just, if you want to go on to watch some different little short clips, you can type in on YouTube. You can type in, so for example, if you were doing Jack and the Beanstalk, if you typed in Jack and the Beanstalk video, it would pop up as a little animation clip. So have a rest of the lesson. Please make sure you write down your main characters and the main events of the story, as you will need those for tomorrow's lesson.